We're even on the camera. Welcome, world, to Manage Your Damn Money with Ben and Malcolm. It is another wonderful week here on planet Earth. Malcolm, what's going on with you, man?
All good, man. It's actually been a pretty good day.
It's been a pretty good day.
Sun is shining, birds are chirping.
It was a nice day today. Felt really good.
Yeah.
In the world, the NFL is back. National Football League.
Amen.
You happy about that?
Oh man, I'm so excited. Like my Sunday, I didn't realize what I was missing until Sunday was here. And like even the games I didn't care anything about, just having them on in the background was like everything.
Absolutely. And of course, the one thing we are a united front here on Manage Your Damn Money. We are Cowboys fans.
How about them Cowboys?
How about them Cowboys lulling us to sleep with slow point totals on Sunday.
Hey, a win is a win is a win.
A win is a win is a win. So excited about that. And then also I was watching TV and I saw this commercial on ESPN. And it featured Randy Moss and Charles Woodson. And Charles Woodson is really trying to make this whole ascot thing work. And he's really pushing the line. It's like, dude, stop.
I don't know if pushing the line is even it. He's crossed the line.
You know what it was? He does wear the ascot on set during his pregame ESPN show, right?
Right.
And I was like, all right, he's making a conscious fashion choice to say I want to wear the ascot, which is like fine, okay. It's bad, it's horrible, it looks bad.
Okay.
But fine, you can do that on set because I get it. But when I saw him in the commercial wearing ascots, I'm like, dude, come on, like you look like an old pimp with no workforce.
He also sounds like it. Like
really?
He's got that foghorn leghorn voice. It doesn't quite match with the everything else. The facade. Like what's the guy's name that does News One?
He's
Roland
Martin.
He's another habitual ascot guy, but it looks like he's supposed to be wearing that ascot. I actually met him a while ago, and like we were talking, and like the whole time I'm talking to him, I'm staring at the ascot, like not even really having a like. And that made me realize that day, the ascot is not for me.
I don't think it's for anybody really, unless you're like smoking a cigar on Miami Beach with a robe on. But those two alone, Roland Martin, Charles Woodson, pushing the line for the ascot, man. I'm not a fan of it, but I guess they can keep on keeping on. Also, really quick, in life news related to sports, I guess you're training for a marathon now. Apparently, tell us about that.
So I'm training for a marathon, and Ben's a hater. Let's put both of those two things in the same sentence because you guys probably don't know this. Those of you who watch and listen to the show on a regular basis, because Ben is always the good cop. But I just so happened to tell Ben, like as I'm talking about initially training for a half marathon I was planning on doing, I said, you know what? Elite athletes like myself and Serena Williams and Floyd Mayweather Jr., you probably don't realize this, but like we don't need a lot of prep time for things like this. Folks in our class. Yes.
All right.
So, it's not a lot for me to get off the couch, get on the track, and knock out 26.2 miles like it's nothing. Like that's, I understand that's elite talent level, but that's about where I am with my running at this point.
Okay.
So, the marathon is November 10th, I think.
Okay.
I will give you my report the day after and let you know how quickly I finish.
Is it on a Monday?
No, it's on a Saturday.
Okay, it's on a Saturday. All right.
So, or maybe it's the 11th. Whatever it is, it's in November, and I've got like 2 months.
Okay.
And I'm going from 0 to 100 real quick.
If you cross the finish line, I will hand you $100.
If I cross the finish line,
if you cross the finish line without any help or assistance or on a wheelchair.
What do you mean? Like I'm gonna take an Uber from halfway through the?
We've seen TV shows where that happens.
Okay. Well, no. By hook or by crook, I'm going to cross the finish line. That isn't the question. It's the time that I'm more concerned about. It's all like it's 99% mental and 1% physical.
Have you
as long as my knees are willing to let me be great that day, I'm good to go.
Okay, we're going to see. Like I said, you heard it here first. If Malcolm crosses that finish line and ran it all himself, I will give him $100.
Like I'm going to tag somebody in to run the back half of it or something.
I don't know.
This is why I tell you guys, Ben Carter is a hater. You don't realize it by the usual exchange, but as soon as I said it, This dude is like, nah, you know. So here's something really random that happened to me this weekend, by the way. So I'm out for a run.
Okay.
I'm on like mile 8 or something. So I stop. I'm standing in front of Union Station, and I met Cornell West, which was really random. Yeah. So I mean, it was a very quick exchange. I probably talked to him general stuff for like 2 minutes, maybe.
You flagged him down though?
Well, he was crossing the street at the corner that I was standing on in front of Union Station. So it was like he had no choice but to
Look
run
at
into
you.
me, right? Like, so it was just really random. But you know, that's a great thing about running. Like those kind of things happen to you that you know
Run
life
into
otherwise
intellect and what do you call them?
activist.
I'm missing the word. I can't think of it. It's something having to do with pontificating. But anyways, we've been pontificating far too long on sports and Malcolm's running. As we do here on Manage Your Damn Money every show, it's time for headlines. This one I'm really excited about. This happened over the weekend. Malcolm, you and I both have been following on the women's side, the U.S. Open. And Sloane Stephens won the women's U.S. Open to the tune of a near $4 million payout. And if you weren't aware, the tennis tournament, the U.S. Open or U.S. Open Championships. Sloane Stephens, who's kind of like an up and coming tennis player, but she's been out for a while. Now. She's up now. She's up. Yeah, there's no and coming anymore. She won the women's side. She beat Venus, which was in the semifinals, which was pretty crazy to see. And while I was watching like the post stuff, or like that after she had won, she beat Madison Keys. Announcers made the point that Sloane's win will net her $3.7 million in one tournament win.
Right.
And they were talking about how that's like the most you can make as an athlete as a woman. And I was like, wait, I think that's true. And I was like, we need to talk about that. But in addition to our talking about that, we need to talk about this on that Saturday, I think it was.
Yeah.
Sloane gave us an amazing, wonderful clip that we're going to play in 2 seconds. Can we play that real quick?
Sloane, I know this is kind of fresh, but having done this once, does it give you a hunger to win another slam, to do this again, feel this feeling again?
Of course, girl. Did you see that check that lady handed me? Like, yes. Man, if that doesn't make you want to play tennis, I don't know what will. Man. So, yes.
That was like really keeping it super real.
Right. When keeping it real goes right, as you said.
Absolutely. So we know the sports contracts of our favorite like male athletes, but not much attention is paid to what women earn in sports.
Right.
A recent August 2017 Forbes piece by Kurt Badenhausen explores women athletes' income as compared to the highest paid female athletes, so like all the women in sports together. So Serena Williams, who is somewhere raising a child now,
right?
Obviously we're kind of setting her aside because she wasn't in this particular tournament. But the gap, for instance, in golf is really huge. So like Rory McIlroy, who's one of the top golfers right now, he made $50 million, I think, like last year, the last like full cycle of a year. Right. And then Lydia Ko, who is also like a top golfer in women's sports, only made $5.9 million. So like 8-1 in the same sport. And that's the difference between gender. 50 million and 5.9 million, which is crazy. And then it also mentioned the divide is even worse in soccer, with Cristiano Ronaldo making 93 million and Alex Morgan, one of the top women's soccer players in the U.S., making 3.5 million. They also went on to look at Danica Patrick, who at one point made 12.2 million, and Ronda Rousey, the UFC fighter, who made 11 million. And they were non-tennis players who are like in the top 10 rankings of women. I think they were third and fourth overall. Obviously, because they've made inroads in a male-dominated sport. But here was a stat that tripped me out, Malcolm. In Nika Obumake, I think that's how you say it. She's the reigning WNBA MVP. She plays for the Los Angeles Sparks. She's one of the highest-paid WNBA players and earned in, I think, the last season, the max salary. There is a max salary that you can make in the WNBA, which is crazy. $95,000 in 2016.
Yeah.
For playing professional sports as a WNBA player.
So I was thinking about that as we looked at these comparisons, right? And I was like, well, $95,000 is not that bad when you consider the WNBA season starts like the first week in June and all the way through playoffs ends like mid-October, right? And then 3 seconds later, I was like, but she's a professional athlete.
Absolutely.
Like, you're the best at what you do.
Right.
And you make the same money as somebody working a regular 9 to 5 that, can't shoot a jump shot in their life, right?
It's someone sitting at a desk being
on par,
average.
you have to think about
Right.
it in that relation. So to go off direction real quick, I think part of the WNBA's problem, though, is that they are up against the NBA.
Yeah.
And not only are they up against the NBA, they're up against the NCAA tournament. Then they're up against the NBA Development League. And then they're up against all the different international basketball tournaments. And so when you think about women's basketball, there's like 4 other men's leagues additional to the NBA that get your attention before the WNBA gets your attention. I think one simple fix for them is to just bring the rim down like 6 inches.
Oh my gosh.
Make it not. No, I'm serious. Make it 9.5. So when you think about basketball, right? You think about the NBA as a kid. What's the most exciting thing about basketball to you?
I suppose the dunks.
Slam dunks.
Yeah.
There are women in the WNBA who are 6'5". They could dunk if the rim was 6 inches lower. In professional volleyball, the net is lower.
Really?
Exactly. You wouldn't even notice the difference, nor would you
Nah,
care because the game is more exciting.
It's true.
In women's pro golf, the tee is further up than the men's tee.
I don't think I knew that either.
You wouldn't care because you're watching it and it's competitive.
Right.
So on and so on. So
Right.
I think that is something that would make the WNBA far more interesting. I've actually been to a handful of WNBA games.
Okay.
And as I'm watching it, I'm thinking like the game would speed up. You get a lot more tip-ins. You would actually get more people who can dunk. So now I got kids that go, I can do that. That's what I think would bring the WNBA back to life. They should hire me as a consultant to fix their PR problem. They won't be advertising for companies on the front of their jerseys anymore to raise revenue. Like that drives me crazy too, but I won't get too much into that.
Taking
But-
the soccer model.
So fortunately, the 2015 WNBA MVP.
Okay.
She plays for the Chicago Sky.
Okay.
Her name is going to come to me in a second. It's
Maya?
like Della Donna or something like that.
Della Don.
Della Don.
Or Della
She
Donna.
agrees with me. She's
Okay.
taking up this crusade with Gina Auriemma, the coach from the
Really?
women's basketball.
So you have facts when you said that. I was like, Malcolm
So-
is by himself on this one.
I'll say, in full disclosure, I happen to know somebody who plays in the WNBA, and I care far more now that I know her than I ever would have cared about women's basketball otherwise.
Okay.
But, as I'm sitting there watching the game, and I'm like, man, this game is slow.
Right.
Those kind of things pop in my mind, and I start Googling, and that's how I got down that rabbit hole. But anyway, it has nothing to do with Sloane Stephens. That was something that I was thinking about when I saw $95,000.
Right.
I'm like, they should make more money than that. How can they make more money than that? Make the game more interesting. How can you make the game more interesting? And then, that's how we got where
This
we
is
got.
what Malcolm does on his couch thinking about the show
Pretty
ahead of
much,
time.
yeah,
We want to remind people you're listening and watching Manage Your Damn Money. We're talking about Sloane Stephens, her win at the U.S. Open, and the fact that she made nearly $4 million by winning one tournament, which is actually the most amount of money almost that you can make as a woman athlete, at least certainly in one go.
Outside of endorsements.
Outside of endorsements.
So one thing I
absolutely.
want to point out real quick, though, Sloane Stephens, I just looked it up. Sloane Stephens went from 957 ranked in the world,
What is she rank now?
now number 17. So her lifetime earnings as a professional tennis player for the last 6 years were about $350,000 for 6 years.
That's crazy.
There's plenty of people probably in this studio
Right.
who have made $350,000 between the last 6 years.
Right.
So that's very unimpressive for a professional athlete.
Right.
I didn't make $4 million in a weekend. That's for sure.
I also want to make this point that stood out to me when I was watching the tennis match, and then they kind of went into this financial aspect, and then we started discussing it. It's crazy how when you work at a craft for a long time, a lot of times in the dark, not really knowing what's going to happen on the other end, if you just stick with it for long enough, and I think Sloane Stephens is certainly an example of that, that investment that you put in on the front end for so long without being recognized, in a minute can be paid off in like that. Because all that,
But it looks like it's instantaneous.
it looks like it's
been
instantaneous.
your whole life.
It's been her whole life that she's been training to play tennis. So it's definitely an investment. And it's something that paid off, 15 years after she actually, because she's like 24.
Yeah.
So whenever she started, playing tennis. So something to keep in mind, investments can come in different ways, especially in professions. But we want to remind folks that we're listening and watching Manage Your Damn Money. We neglected to explain what today's conversation at hand is because we were talking about the NFL.
Got me on a tangent. And then all of a sudden.
Absolutely. And on this show, we're talking about when art is literally an investment, how to understand art as what's the word? Appreciable asset? Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I can speak. Awesome. We're going to take a really quick music break and hear a track from our in-house producer, Mr. Beats by Beeman. He is also the executive producer and co-creator of this show. We want to remind folks you can listen to our show anytime you want to on just search Manage Your Damn Money on Apple Podcast and leave us a review that helps us go up in the ratings. Of course, make it 5 stars. And you can also find us on SoundCloud.com/Manage Your Damn Money. You can always find us on our website, ManageYourDamnMoney.com. We're going to hear from Beats by Beeman. We will be right back. Welcome back to Manage Your Damn Money with Ben and Malcolm. We just got through talking about Sloane Stephens and her keeping it real clip, making $3.7 million. That was pretty awesome. But today's conversation at hand is when art is literally an investment. On Manage Your Damn Money, our job is to remind and introduce you to all things tied to money. Investing to increase your net worth over time is one of the primary ways anyone can make their money grow. Investments in stocks, mutual funds, and business ventures all have the potential to help your money multiply with little or no work on your behalf. But what if I told you investing in art is one of the many ways one can invest to increase the value of their money over time? In this episode of Manage Your Damn Money, we're going to explore the world of art and how people have used art as a tool to invest. And actually, we have a guest for this show. Her name is Jessica Stafford Davis. She's the founder of the Agora Culture, which is an online and offline platform which helps connect young and upcoming artists with young and upcoming or even established art buyers. So we're going to talk to her about what it means to be an art investor or to use art as an investment. But before we invite Jessica onto the stage, real quick, I thought it makes sense to kind of just track through the most expensive pieces of art in the world, Malcolm.
Right.
So I pulled a 2015 CNBC piece by Kenneth Kiesnowski, which lists the most expensive paintings ever sold. And the first one that we have is a piece by Jackson Pollock. I guess the name of it is Number 5, 1948. It was $140 million, that was the cost of the last time it was purchased. The 2006 sale by record mogul David Geffen on this abstract expressionist work by American painter Jackson Pollock for $140 million made it the most expensive painting ever sold to date, according to a report in the New York Times from November 2nd of that year. Number 2, or at least, so we're going inverse, so like 5 up to 1, up to the most expensive, Pablo Picasso. Now, I don't speak French, but Les Femmes d'Alger, I think. Does anybody speak French in here?
Probably as close as I would have gotten.
I don't think anybody knows. But,
can't afford it either.
Right.
So.
But Les Femmes d'Alger, the last in the series of 15 paintings of the same name by renowned Spanish Cubist artist Pablo Picasso, version O of Le Femme d'Alger, sold at an auction in May of 2015 for $179.3 million, according to the BBC, which is the British news network. And then it set a record for an auction house sale. The new owner, the top bidder at the Christie's New York sale was Hamad bin Yassim bin Jabir Al Thani, who is the former prime minister of Qatar. So I hope I said that semi-right. Then the third thing, Malcolm, was Mark Rothko, which was the piece was called Number 6, and then in parentheses it was violet, green, and red. This went for $186 million. This seemingly simple, which Malcolm, I think you could actually paint this.
I feel like I could too.
This seemingly simple 1951 painting by noted abstract expressionist painter Mark Rothko was acquired in a private sale by Russian billionaire Dmitry something
Get
with
it,
an R.
Get it.
Rybolovlev in August of last year for a reported 140 million euros, which is about 186 million at a 2014 exchange rate. And then I was given some help earlier with the pronunciation of this one. Paul Cézanne, The Card Players, which was between $250 million to $300 million was paid for this one. Yet another of the top most expensive paintings in the world is housed somewhere in Qatar. One of five oil paintings entitled The Card Players by French 19th century post-impressionist painter Paul Cézanne was bought by a tiny Gulf state royal family in 2011 for an undisclosed price estimated to range anywhere from $250 million to $300 million. And then the most expensive art piece ever sold was by Paul Gauguin, and the piece is called Nafia Fa Ipopo, which I guess translates to "When will you marry me?" And
You're doing a great job with these names.
I have no idea what language this is. Nafia Fa Ipopo. So if someone uses that phrase, they're asking someone to marry them. This 1982 oil painting of two Tahitian girls by another French post-impressionist, Paul Gauguin, was sold for a reported $300 million or so this past February. So it was the February of 2015, I think, to an undisclosed buyer, according to the New York Times, making it the most expensive painting ever. So $300 million for some paint on a canvas. I think I'm in the wrong business. Some interesting stuff there, sir. What do you think about those numbers?
The thing that I guess keeps me grounded in my not pursuing a career in art is that you just listed like 5 people out of 300 million Americans, or 2 billion people in the world that made that art. Right, and it was worth.
And they're not
millions.
benefiting it. They're not making that money.
So
they're dead.
You got to die before your art becomes popular. For
right.
one thing, no thanks. And then also, you're 5 out of 3 billion people, or whatever the number is in the world at this point.
Right.
I don't like those odds. I might as well go play the Powerball. So
Right. Very good. Very good. So those are some of the most expensive pieces of art. And then also, we looked up something to like give some guidelines for when someone's investing in art. And so I found this story that says 10 expert tips for investing in the art market. This was a March 2012 Forbes piece by Abigail R. Esmond, which offered some suggestions for investing in the art market after she attended something called the European Fine Art and Antiques Fair, or also known as TEFAF, an annual event in Maastricht, Netherlands, or Maastricht, which is a city in the Netherlands, that brings scores of collectors from all around the world to rummage through most expensive and highly sought after art and antique things in the market. Her observations were really quickly, contemporary art remains the most volatile market. It is also, therefore, the one offering the top rewards. So as long as you buy wisely and sell wisely and take care to regard that the art is authentic. She also suggested or observed that the fluctuations in the market for one artist can and often will affect the market for another related artist. So like if you're in a category, I guess what somebody else's art went for obviously affects yours. Like the same thing as Tide, as we always come back to, affects the price of every other detergent on the rack. And then also value is not found only in the artist, but in the quality of the given work. Also, she mentioned watching out for quote unquote bargains. If a work fails to sell at an auction or at successive art fails, so it goes to an art fair and doesn't get sold, the market will consider it quote unquote burned and hence illiquid. This leaves the door open to purchase at a reduced price, but be prepared to have to hold on to it for a while before it will return to the market. Obviously, which is a tenet of yours, buy low, sell high. And also buying new art by young artists, which Jessica Stafford Davis is going to give us a really quick review of, because that's really a big thing of what she does. In one sense, this can be the riskiest. The vast majority of these artists never really make it, but many will. And while the chances that your own discovery of new artists will prove financially rewarding may be smaller than the chances of an increase in value of a Picasso, the cost of a work by young artists is a small fraction of the cost of a Picasso. In other words, you are intrinsically buying low.
Right.
So would you ever add art as a kind of investment for yourself, Malcolm?
I don't know. I mean, I like the idea that it gives you something to talk about and probably makes you seem a lot more well-rounded than just talking about, like, you know, the new Jay-Z album or something. But
right.
It'd be tough for me because I'm much better at choosing the next best growth company to buy stock from than I would be choosing the right artist to put my money behind. So it'd be tough for me to like make that kind of pivot unless I was literally just buying the painting because I like it. And then, you know, who cares what it's worth?
Absolutely. And then two, have you ever had clients ask you about like investing or buying art?
A couple, actually.
Really?
But so I will say that is something that both times they themselves are really into.
Okay.
And it was just a conversation of like, how should I pay for this, or how much is too much, that kind of thing. But they ended up educating me far more than, you know, I gave them anything other than just like, here's the pool of money it can come from, or no, you can't buy it in your IRA because the IRS doesn't recognize it as an investment, even though you do, that kind of stuff.
Okay, excellent. Very good. Well, in a moment, we're going to bring on Jessica Stafford Davis. She's the founder and owner of the Agora Culture. We're going to get to her on the other side of this music break. We're going to hear another piece by Mr. Beats by Beeman, our in-house producer and co-creator of Manage Your Damn Money. We want to remind folks that you can always find us on Facebook, facebook.com/Manage Your Damn Money. And send us your comments, thoughts, concerns, criticisms of Malcolm's ideas and perspectives to info@manageyourdamnmoney.com. Also, if there's like a particular subject you want to have us cover, just send it there and we'll respond. We've had a couple of submissions so far, so we're definitely trying to get to those. And then also, lastly, if you're a musician or some kind of musical artist yourself and you have a wonderful composition to share, we would love to feature it on the show. Just send it again to info@manageyourdamnmoney.com. We'll talk to you. We'll listen to it to see if it's good first, obviously. And then we'll run it. So we're going to listen to this another piece by Beats by Beeman, Manage Your Damn Money with Ben and Malcolm. We will be right back.
Now listen. Now listen.
Welcome back to Manage Your Damn Money with Ben and Malcolm. Today's conversation at hand, when art is literally an investment, and in between us we have the Miss Wonderful Jessica Stafford Davis. She is the founder of what's called the Agora Culture. The Agora Culture is a multicultural arts platform that connects both emerging and well-known artists with collectors, which is kind of what we alluded to earlier. Some of these collectors are world-class. Some of these collectors own a handful of pieces. Some collectors know nothing about art, like myself and Malcolm, and want to hang something on their wall for the very first time. And I think it's interesting. You had a Forbes piece that featured you in the Agora Culture back in 2015. Why don't you tell us about yourself, Jessica, and what the Agora Culture is and why you do it?
So first, thank you for having me on the show.
Absolutely.
And so a little bit about Jessica and art. I, back in college in '97, found a great art piece that I loved, and I purchased it. I found someone who was a collector
Okay.
in my social circle, and I ran to tell them, like, oh, look what I have, which was a print. And the woman said to me, oh, that's great, but why didn't you get the original?
Oh, man.
And that wasn't even something that I thought was, that wasn't even
A concept.
something I thought of.
Right.
And then when she said an original, the first thing that came into my head was, I probably wouldn't be able to afford an original.
Right.
So my life kept going, graduated from college with a finance degree, and didn't know how I could work with art and finance. So I stayed with finance. Life happened, and I was able to later on in life come back to art as
Oh, wow.
as a business. And how I got there was I tried to go into galleries. I tried to learn more about art, and what I found was that there was no particular place I could go to really learn about fine art, what fine art was, specifically African diaspora work. So went back to school for art history.
Oh, wow.
I interned at a gallery and realized that there was an opportunity to be in the space to teach people how to collect and to have them connect with opportunities, artists that their investment would grow over time.
Right. What I hear in there's some moment where you realized you like art, and I want to know what that moment was.
I was in a place where I was finding out more about culture. I was listening to different musics, particularly jazz. My favorite album then became Miles Davis' Blue.
Oh, wow.
It's not Blue Horn. That was the work that I purchased, but it's Kind of Blue.
Okay.
And so I fell upon this artwork by Kadir Nelson, and it was called The Blue Horn.
Okay.
And the work just resonated with me. I saw it, it saw me, and I just had this connection. And that's how I made my first purchase.
Okay.
And that's when I decided that I really wanted to have things around me that spoke to what I loved.
Okay. Excellent. You recently had the Agoriculture an event at Martha's Vineyard
In Massachusetts.
In Massachusetts. Get that right, Ben. I was thinking it was the Hamptons in New York. I don't know the difference between the two. What was that event about? Explain like what it was. It was called Art on the Vine, right?
Correct. It was
Okay.
called Art on the Vine. So what it was an opportunity to show collectors some of the art that we feature in a way that they can engage with it in person. So we took something that was online and made it an offline event. So in addition to showing fine art from new and emerging artists of color, we also had a lot of seminars where you could learn how to collect and things of that nature. So it was an education and an opportunity to make purchases.
So a question that I have for you, we talk about social media on this show a lot and ways that as a business owner, it can help increase your visibility and ultimately increase your ability to do business. I imagine in a space like yours where your product is visual or the majority of your product is visual, how do you utilize social media to help kind of boost the awareness of what you guys do and interest and that sort of thing?
We try to share as much as possible on social media. Social media can be a funny beast because if you think
Amen.
so what we learned is that we don't necessarily need social media in order to connect with our collectors.
Okay.
Specifically in that event, we have people who are coming in. The vast majority don't have social media who are engaging with the work and the product.
Okay. That's the world I want to live in.
Excellent. Well, real quick, I think one thing that I really want to know, and you've explained it to me before when we've like met and talked about it. What's the overall business model for an artist? So you work with connecting artists with people who might buy it at that high art price point. What's the business model for that artist to actually make money off of paintings and sculptures and whatever other kind of medium they're working with?
So most likely it's commission based.
Okay.
So an artist will, and this is the primary market, so we're talking usually about a living artist. They will connect with a handler, whether that's an art dealer or a gallery.
Sounds like an agent kind of.
Same
Sorta.
concept.
Okay.
And they connect them with potential buyers.
Okay.
Once they move the work, there's a percentage
Oh, wow.
that the art dealer will retain, and
Okay.
then the artist receives the rest.
Okay.
Of the commission.
Excellent. And like, how long does it take to get that pipeline going? Like, what's the shortest amount of time you've seen it work, and then the longest? Like-
Between an artist creating a work and
no, not that, but like from an artist when they decide I'm gonna paint and sell it, to
So starving artists.
starving artists to like, all right, I can pay rent with this check type thing. Like, give us that spectrum.
I'll answer it this way. I'll say that what I've seen as being successful are there certain like pipelines.
Okay.
Earlier you were talking about stocks and being able to analyze stocks and deciding which one you're going to pick. It's kind of the same thing when it comes to artists to some degree. You're looking at the quality of their work, but also what helps is their education. Where are they going to? Certain programs are a great pipeline, certain residencies are a pipeline, and you start to see that X artist went to X program school,
Right.
then they went to X residency, and then they're in the Whitney, or
Right.
then they're in the MoMA. So there's like this pipeline that you can kind of look at. It's not as arbitrary.
Right.
So
as
there's not really a market for like a dude like me sitting on the couch that says, I'm looking at, I can't even remember the name of that painting anymore, but it was called like number 6.
Right.
That had like just 3 different swatches of paint. And
the
like,
Rothko.
I looked at that and said, I could do that, right? So there isn't really a market for guys like me to just off my couch do something like that based on what you're saying.
I'm saying that what you were seeing there were trained artists. So even though it looked like something that you could do yourself, it could have been the process that the artist was using. It could have the intentionality that these artists are using are usually the artists that you're seeing that are moving for high dollar.
Can you
amounts.
explain both of those a little bit more? The intentionality and the process?
So, for example, there are a lot of people who are able to draw. There are a lot
Right.
of people who are able to paint, but that doesn't mean that they're going to do well in the contemporary marketplace. What I have found is that these artists who are doing well, they have some type of social. Some of them have social practices. So when they're creating these works, they mean something more than just
Got it.
I'm just painting. But for those who are just painting white on white on white, it's the process. It's intentional. They weren't just doing it just because I wanted a bright, beautiful sun on this canvas. There is some rhyme and reason to it, and that's what I see as being the differentiator.
Okay. You mentioned something which is key to. We talked about the business model. And essentially, the way you've explained it to me is the profile rising or rising star of an artist, right? Such that you can look at their art and say, their art is going to be worth something in 15 years. Explain to me both you already explained kind of like the profile rising, going through programs and ending up in this place or this place in terms of museums. Can you explain kind of how that increases the value of the art and how the market kind of recognizes that rising star, like, and the correlation between a rise and the value of a piece, and also the value in the actual artists themselves?
I would suggest that you do not just invest in especially these fine artworks just for financial gain.
Right. Okay.
I believe it should be some type of hybrid. You should be investing because the work in there's some connection to the work, as well as, oh, by the way, it has a high probability of increasing in value.
Right.
Because artwork is more than just a commodity. It is, we're like custodians of culture, right? So that's why I feel like it sets itself apart.
Okay. That's the answer?
Yeah, I want to be really careful of just looking at it as a commodity or
Absolutely.
something that will increase in value because that devalues the art. So, and some people call that flipping it, right? So I purchase it for X, and then in 6 months I want to sell it again.
Right.
For a contemporary, a living artist, that could be detrimental to their career.
Right. Absolutely. Okay. That makes perfect sense. And then we're going to take a really quick music break. But when we come back, we have a few more questions for Jessica Stafford Davis, who is here from the Agora Culture online and offline platform, connecting artists with art buyers and kind of developing the art community overall. This is Manager Dan Money with Ben and Malcolm. We will be right back. Welcome back to Manage Your Damn Money with Ben and Malcolm. We are joined here today by Miss Jessica Stafford Davis. She is the founder of the Agora Culture, and today's conversation at hand is when art is literally an investment. You were just making the point about not buying art solely for the financial gain of it possibly increasing in value in 10 years, but also the intrinsic value that art has, which was a really excellent point. But as I've told other people, this is a show called Manage Your Damn Money. So we're gonna talk
I knew you were gonna say that.
We're gonna talk about the money part. And it's one thing that I always feel when people talk about art and the purchase of art. One experience that I have personally with art, a friend of mine had a really great painting that I loved, but she had priced it like at $500. It was like an awesome piece, right? It was poignant, it had meaning and all that stuff, but I couldn't afford to like pay $500 for a canvas with, you know, the art on it. So she made like a secondary product, which was like a T-shirt with the print, you know, that I bought for maybe like $28 at the most. So I'm thinking like, is art, and like the experience you mentioned in the beginning, is buying, you know, high-end fine art, is that something for only really wealthy people? Like, because that's my impression sometimes when we talk about fine arts in that way.
No, and I think that's a great question, and you would feel like that if you didn't have like these kind of secrets, and that's what we try to share with the platform. So, for example, you can purchase work on over time. You can pay over time.
Okay.
Like layaway.
You can put it on layaway?
You can put it on
Really?
layaway.
I don't
And
know
layaway,
how I feel about that.
No. Layaway growing up for me was such like a
It's a dirty word.
It's a dirty word. And wait, so most people, even the very, very wealthy, they're not writing checks, right? It's about the what is it called? The dollar, right? You want to keep more cash.
Oh, okay.
I
then
see.
give the
So
give
keep
your money
your
work.
liquidity.
Exactly. So they pay over time.
Okay.
For these high dollar works. So there's when I look back, there are a lot of times that I went into Gallery XYZ and found out what the price of the work was, and I priced myself out, not realizing like, wow, well, if I took that over 2 years,
Right.
I could have had that piece. So
Right.
when you talk about only being for the wealthy, no. I think when we use the tools of the wealthy, we have access to it.
So
All
what is
these
it? What?
Basquiat's and Picassos and stuff we hear Jay-Z rapping about, he's really buying that on credit.
So 2 points. So what I'm talking about is the primary market. So the primary market is when it's sold, usually from living artist to the person, like through
Right.
the gallery. But then there's this thing called the secondary market. That's when we're talking about auctions. In auctions, you are paying
Got
for
it.
that amount. But there are just so many things that I found out that when we talk about art as an asset, and I don't want to get too ahead of your questions, but something I thought was really interesting. A lot of investment banks, they have products
Okay.
where you can leverage against your artwork.
Oh, wow.
Right. So that can be your collateral for a line of credit.
Okay.
So I didn't even know that you could do that. And really, if you purchase, so I have works that I purchased for hundreds of dollars that now are worth thousands of dollars. When you amass that over 5 years or 10 years, you can then leverage these products from these investment companies. So you can manage your damn money and work it out.
Very good. Very good.
So in that same vein, right, for just, I won't say an average Joe, right, but I'll say for a novice or a person who's a little bit above average in income and asset level, right? What is a legitimate price to pay for a piece of art that I can feel like I'm participating
Don't
in
do
the
that
art
to me.
world? Well, don't even give me a specific dollar amount, right? Like you just said, hundreds turned into thousands, right?
Yeah.
And you smiled while you were saying it, so I know you're proud of those pieces that you bought. But like, what's that range, if you will, that I can get in and get involved in the art world and not feel like I just bought, you know, something from the bargain bin?
I'm proud because I bought the work because it resonated with me.
Okay.
So it was just a great like cherry on top. And oh, by the way, it's a photograph series. One of the works is in one of the museums. Like, oh wow, right? Great. That's great. I'll say this: you can play at any level.
Okay.
You can play at any level. Because there's art, you can find a great artist who's in school, right? So you can purchase a work directly from that artist while they're in their program coming out through school, and that won't be the same amount as he would be charging coming out of school versus going connecting with the dealer. So
I like
there's
that
a
idea.
place to play at any time.
Malcolm about to go find the
I'm
nearest art
gonna
program.
be stalking some art students.
Hey son, I like your painting. I'll give you $50 for it right now.
I got these textbooks, man.
I got these textbooks.
But it's all like with anything, it's doing your research,
Yeah.
right?
Okay, excellent. So real quick, it's an interesting question. And I know you kind of don't want to make it all about the money, which is a good point. But how, when a person like Malcolm mentioned, average-ish Joe walking into the situation has some money that they can spend on something like art, what is something, or how do people understand the value of art when they're walking up to it? Because obviously you can't look at a canvas or a sculpture and outside of the materials used, judge how much it costs to make it. What factors, I guess I should say, influence the price point that artist lists their work at, or that gallery lists the work at?
Many things, but I'll say that the art world is like any other place where it's what the market will demand, or like, it's market will bear.
It's
Right.
worth whatever you'll pay.
I mean, but that's with most things, right? Like, so know that. Anyone who's interested in moving into this space, and I say being an art patron, so not just purchasing work, but really like growing in their knowledge, go to museums, go to see, you want to know what work is good, go see the best work.
Right.
And then what you're doing is you're honing your eye. You're naturally growing in the space and finding out what you like. So then when you go to XYZ gallery, you'll be like, I don't like this. It won't connect with you. So
Okay.
it's kind of like doing research. Go see as much art as you can see. Go to museums. They're curated, so there are experts who are selecting this work and putting it on the walls. In these, I would say they're kind of vetted, if you will, to some degree. So that's a great place to start. So then when you do go and you want to start purchasing, you'll have a better understanding. And ask the artist, ask the gallery, find out more about what they're doing and why.
Okay, absolutely. We're going to remind people you're listening and watching Manage Your Damn Money. We're talking to Jessica Stafford Davis, founder of the Agora Culture. Quick question for you that I have is, if I'm a young artist, right? So we've been talking about the investor side, so to speak, or the art patron, side of things. Somebody who's young, maybe in school or just exiting school, and they've gone through a fine arts program. They have every idea about how to create the art they want to make, but no idea about the business of being an artist. What are some key points that you would give those people who are trying to like establish themselves and use art as at least a side or part of what their career is going to be?
Like anything, do your research. Art is a business.
Right.
It's more than you just create and then, I'm going to walk down the street and I'm going to want to pay. I'm going to know the value of the work and I'm going to pay that. Right. So understand that you're doing more than just making the work. You're marketing the work. You're connecting. You want to connect with people who believe in your practice and they want to see you grow. There are a lot of people out here who are just trying to get money from you. Right. So just making sure that you are the keeper of your work. Don't go for the easiest, the quickest, or the fastest. Those usually are the worst things. You want to connect with people who are vested.
Okay, absolutely.
You mentioned earlier that it's possible to have an agent or a broker represent you as the artist to sell your work. How do you get connected with somebody like that?
So I would say, and that's what I would say is a gallery. So a lot of times galleries are just like we're looking at the program, the gallery is looking at people who are coming out of certain programs so that they connect with them. But also artists can approach a gallery and show them their portfolio of work and say, would you be interested in bringing me onto your roster?
Okay. Interesting. How many artists do like galleries in DC, like as a marker or whatever? How many artists do they carry at a time?
It all depends, like 15
At the most?
20.
Okay.
Because what a gallery is supposed to do for the artist is not only connect you to collectors, people who want to purchase your work, but they're also supposed to help you get into museum shows so your work can be in a broader conversation. They're also supposed to be working to have scholarly research written about your work. So if you're doing something that is inspired by Picasso, then there is some type of scholar writing to connect the adding research as a undergirding to what you're doing.
Okay, absolutely. So if people want to learn more about the Agora culture and what you do, where can people follow you? Where can people find information about you guys?
We're online.
Where else?
theagoraculture.com. So the THE Agora AGORA culture.com. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook, and we'd love to talk to you. And also, we're every August we're in Martha's Vineyard at Art on the Vine.
Not the Hamptons.
Not the Hamptons. Don't go there.
Very good, Jessica. We want to thank Jessica Stafford Davis for joining us. We're going to take another quick music break, but when we return, Malcolm and I will wrap up the show. I want to remind folks that you can always find us on our social media handles. What's yours, Malcolm?
At Malcolm on Money.
And of course, mine is at MYDM1. This is Manager Dan Money with Ben and Malcolm. We will be right back.
Now listen. Now listen.
Welcome back to Manager Dan Money with Ben and Malcolm. Another great show, Malcolm. Another great educational session with Jessica Stafford Davis.
Yeah, I learned a little something myself.
Man, I mean, this is what we got to do. We got to find art we like, and then maybe the other benefit is it might rise in value over 15 years. If I took my educational course correct and I got an A in the class.
But you shouldn't be buying it for speculative purposes anyway. You should actually
true.
like it. That's what I got from it.
Absolutely. Well, other news really quickly with the minute or so we have left, the iPhone X was announced today. Some new stuff for people to spend their money on.
People are going crazy
over a phone. And do you know what the price point is, Malcolm?
The intro level one is $999.
$1,000.
And then there's a secondary one that's $1,200.
Let me ask you this. Does it fly? Can it do your homework for you? Can it find you a girlfriend? Does it do any of those things?
No, that's why me and the 7 are going to keep rocking.
I just want people to know I have an iPhone 5 SE, and when I saw the price point for the iPhone 10 or X, whatever they're calling it, I said, "Oh, absolutely not." I always stay like a year and a half, 2 years behind in iPhone generations because I just don't care about the new stuff that
So
much.
the only reason I even have the one I have is because my carrier allows me to lease it.
Right.
I pay $6 a month to lease the phone.
Okay.
There's no way I'm going to be able to buy a new iPhone for $36 a year.
That's true.
So because of that subsidy they give me, I'm willing to carry an iPhone. Whenever this iPhone X is $6 a month,
you gonna have it.
Then I'll have it.
Well,
but until then, they won't hear from me.
Okay, very good. Well, you can tell me how it works once you get it, because I'll probably be onto an iPhone, maybe a 7 if I'm lucky.
From what I understand, though, based on because the group chat's on fire today. From what I understand, though, the only real upgrade is that the facial recognition technology. You don't need passwords to get into it. That's scary. I see online from pictures of Mark Zuckerberg's office, he has tape over the camera and microphone on his computer.
Man,
I have tape over the camera and microphone on my computer.
I'm
'Cause
doing
if it's
that
good
tomorrow.
enough for Mark Zuckerberg is good enough for me. Like, he knows far more than I'll ever know about computers.
Right.
So if he's that paranoid, I need to be that paranoid.
Right.
So aside from that, it's only got an enhanced camera, and as you know, I don't ever take pictures, so who cares? So I'll save my coins and put that $1,000 towards something way more productive. Maybe I'll buy a piece of art.
It's ironic because you just outlined like incredibly the level of consumerism that is just attached to the iPhone. Like how absurd. It's a freaking phone to call and text people, and people are going crazy because of like 4.5 quote unquote upgrades, which are really just progressions in technology overall.
So you know what's really funny, and I know I'm going to sound like a really old man, like a real life old man for this
Okay.
one, but as I'm watching the iPhone product launch on TV today, you know what flashed through my mind?
What?
I don't have $1,200 worth of people that I want to call. That's exactly what flashed through my mind as I was watching that. I said, $1,200? I don't have $1,200 worth of people to call. And then immediately I went, how old am I? But that was how I felt. So, and then I said, this is why people come down so hard on us as a generation, millennials, where they're always like, you're wasting your money on spending $1,000 on a phone. You need to pay your student loans. That kind of like that again was like, I was like, I see why people talk so much trash about us on this day.
Speaking of old man moments, today I was trying to explain to my wife how to take the bus and another shuttle to get home, and
Okay.
I had a flash of my father trying to tell me how to get to high school on the bus. So with that and 2 old man comments for the day, this has been another episode of Manage Your Damn Money with Ben and Malcolm. We want to remind people you can find us on our website, manageyourdamnmoney.com. Send us an email, tell us what you think. Also leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Simply search Manage Your Damn Money and leave us a 5-star review. That helps us go up in the ratings. And also you can find Malcolm on social media. What's your handle for Twitter and Instagram, Malcolm?
At Malcolm on Money.
And of course, mine is at MYDM with a 1 on the end. Until the next episode, be good with your money.
Peace.
Peace.